Hey there, everybody, and how are you guys doing tonight? This is Joe here with Mobile Cup of Joe for our weekly show tonight of What's Brewing. We are a few minutes late. It is 9:12 p.m., so we're about 12 minutes behind schedule. We had some technical difficulties. We had a lot of our brew crew drop off, so the guys you see here tonight are the actual brew crew for Mobile Cup of Joe, the ones that are dedicated and don't just leave for a little flimsy excuse. So these are the real guys right here that actually care to talk to you about technology and Google I/O. So we've got a really awesome show tonight. As you could tell by our title, we have a second week in a row of an I/O pun with Android M. Is so delicious because there's actually a lot of awesome stuff. If you somehow didn't catch the news from Google I/O this week, we've got all the details for you right here. Through Android M, there's a ton of updates, including DOEs, monthly over-the-air updates for the developer preview, something called Google Now on tap, which sounds awesome. We even got some updates for Google Cardboard, which I know I'm very excited for. And along with that, we just have a general rundown of the conference itself. Now, some quick housekeeping rules before we get too far in the show. If you have any questions for us while we're going on throughout the show live, go ahead and if you're watching this on Google+, the Q&A is open, so go ahead and drop your questions in there and we will be sure to answer them. And if you're watching this on YouTube or just anywhere outside of Google+, go ahead and use the hashtag MCOJBrew on any of the socials, be that Twitter, Facebook, Google+, whatever it may be, and we will answer them as well. And also feel free to use that hashtag if you're listening to the podcast afterwards or watching the video archive on the YouTube channel after the live stream goes up as well. And also a couple more things aside from the show, a couple little side notes we want to put in there. If you didn't see Mobile Cup of Joe, our YouTube channel, after being on here for almost coming up 3 years now, this August, I think it was like earlier in the week, like Wednesday or somewhere around there. I could be completely wrong, but either way, we did hit the famous 4,000 subscribers this week. So we got to 4K, so thank you to everyone who is subscribed to the channel, just watches the videos, likes the videos. There's dog ears on my face for some reason right now. Google Plus just added that randomly. But yeah, either way, we have 4,000 subscribers, so we do have a few things planned up for a little giveaway. Not as tremendous or as big of a giveaway as we did for 3,000 subscribers, but we still have a lot of cool stuff planned, so look out for some details regarding that the 4,000 subscriber giveaway trickling out within the next couple weeks or so. And I also want to take the time in this show to thank our sponsors over at audible.com, because if you haven't been watching or following the news recently, actually I don't think we made this public whatsoever, but we do have a new sponsor, and that is the awesome folks over at audible.com. So if you guys have not checked out Audible, be sure to do so, because today's podcast is brought to you by audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/mobilecupofjoe, where they have over 150,000 titles to choose from for devices on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. For you, the listeners here to What's Brewing, Mobile Cup of Joe's What's Brewing, Audible is offering you a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out the service for free. Personally, I was actually listening to Ready Player One by Ernest Cline this past week. A phenomenal book. It's filled with 80s nostalgic, pop culture, geeky game references, TV show references, all from the 80s and early 90s. Fantastic stuff there. It's a really, really awesome book if you're just a fan of anything geek-related in general, video games, old sci-fi movies, whatever it may be. Phenomenal read right there. Highly, highly recommend it. So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/mobilecupofjoe. Again, that's audibletrial.com/mobilecupofjoe to get your free audiobook. So now that's out of the way, again, thanks to Audible for sponsoring tonight's show. Let's go ahead and let's get into some awesome news regarding Android M. So I'm going to go ahead and hand the reins to Chuck Haines for tonight's show, so he can go ahead and tell us what's going on with Android M.
All right. Well, we had a pretty fun couple days here at Google I/O, and obviously the big one of the big things is the I/O keynote, which actually happened yesterday. Yesterday, 9:30 Pacific time, which was a little bit later for those of you guys on the East Coast or like myself in Central time. A lot of really cool stuff from the actual I/O keynote itself. Obviously, one of the biggest things that everyone's been waiting for is Android M. They did announce Android M. Much like last year, they've not given it an official name yet. It is just Android M, much like it was Android L last year. There's been some wild speculations going around based on some watch faces that some people had at I/O, but apparently that was just kind of a troll on Google's part, which is kind of awesome. I think it's kind of cool that Google does that kind of thing. So what's Android M? Android M is obviously the follow-up to Android Lollipop 5.1. We don't know whether it'll be 5.2 or 6.0. I'm assuming it'll be 5.2. Google has basically said that Android M is its polish and improvements update to Android Lollipop. I've actually been running the developer preview on my Nexus 6. I know that Fred has it on his Nexus 5, and Tony also has it on his Nexus 6. And I can tell you, even with the couple quirks that it has, it's definitely already daily driver ready. I've been using it for about a day and a half now, and have had a couple minor issues, but nothing that's really stopped me from using it full time. So lots of really cool stuff. We're going to cover quite a few things today. First thing is the updated permission system. So one of the big things coming with Android M is a kind of an overhaul to how Android does its permission system. Right now, you know, in Android Lollipop or anything previous, when you install an app from the App Store, you kind of get this long list of permissions that you're kind of granting the app to use. And sometimes you're kind of wondering, well, why does Twitter really need access to my SMS? You know, I'd love to be able to turn that off. And, you know, third-party ROMs like CyanogenMod and others have had this notion of app ops, as they call it, which has kind of been buried in the settings and stuff, which has allowed you to kind of turn on and off fine-grained control, you know, of certain permissions. Well, now with Android M, Google's kind of rolling that into the Android release itself. What this is actually going to do is, instead of giving you that list of permissions when you actually install the app, the first time that the app tries to use that particular permission, it's going to pop a little box up and say, do you want to allow this app to do, you know, X, Y, Z? Do you want to allow it access to the microphone or to location or anything like that? Some of you guys might have seen kind of a little bit of a predecessor to this already in the fact that Google Maps right now, if you try and do navigation and you don't have your GPS on, will pop a little box up that basically says, you know, do you want me to enable GPS and always scanning for Wi-Fi? So kind of the same idea for that, only it'll be a permanent yes, or it'll be a yes or no for things like location and stuff like that. You can certainly say yes or no, and if you change your mind at any point in time, you'll be able to go into the settings for that app and toggle any of those permissions on and off. Not only can you see on an app-by-app basis what has different permissions, but within settings itself, you can actually filter and say, show me everything that has location settings. Show me everything that has access to my microphone. So you really can kind of see what apps are using what permissions in a bunch of different ways, and either toggle them on and off. Now, a lot of people worried, well, what's this going to do for existing apps? Google has said that legacy apps that are not built against Lollipop or earlier versions of the Android SDK will still use the old traditional permission system. So you'll still get that pop-up, you'll still see the long permissions. But as apps start migrating over to the Android M SDK, you're going to start seeing apps be able to request this new way of doing things. So Google's kind of come up with an interesting way of letting people move forward but not breaking backwards compatibility. Some of you guys like Greg, who might be an iOS user here, you're kind of a little bit more familiar with this kind of permission system anyway, because that's kind of how iOS has worked for a while. iOS doesn't quite have as fine-to-grain permissions as Android M does, but it certainly does say, you know, when something wants to use location or wants to access, microphone. There's a few other ones in iOS. So Android's going to kind of start to go down that same path. I, for one, am super happy because things like Facebook, which, you know, I'd love to turn off in the background, not that I use Facebook that much, but it's really nice to be able to turn off some of these permissions that you're kind of like, well, why does this app need it? The biggest problem is going to be is you give this permission to the users, and they're really going to have to understand, you know, okay, I'm turning off location in a weather app. Well, obviously, you probably can't get weather for your current location anymore. So they haven't really detailed whether they're going to keep all the existing permissions or whether it's going to be a much more simplified set of permissions. But it's going to be interesting to see how they do it and how the end user can be smart enough to know that, you know, a weather app really probably needs my location to be able to do what it needs to do. So what do you guys think about the new permission system? You guys excited? Don't care? What's the feeling about it?
Personally, I know a lot of people, they have issues with app permissions requesting too much information, like when Facebook Messenger, I think it was this past summer when that was like the standalone application and people saw the permissions it was requesting, they freaked out. So I know like for those kind of people, they'll probably will appreciate having this feature in there, but for me personally, I could care less about what permissions applications have. I know that's probably not the best mindset to have about that, but for me personally, it just doesn't bother me if an application requires like certain permissions. If I at least know who the developer is and I know what kind of app I'm getting, I'm fine with giving it as many permissions as it needs to deliver me the content of the services I need from that certain app. So for me, like I guess it's just my mindset. I really don't care that much about it. I know it's a really awesome feature, but just me, it doesn't affect me that much in my normal use with it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Android, this is probably one of the biggest gripes that's been, certainly for business users and power users, I guess. The average Joe probably won't care. They'll just install the Facebook app and give it permissions to whatever. But certainly when you look at things like the Galaxy S6, which location services just uses so much of the battery, it'd be great to just say, do you know what, I'm willing to sacrifice that location service of Facebook just to save a bit of battery and a bit of an extra security. Because all you've really got on Android at the minute is, if I don't want to grant that permission, then I can't use the app at all.
Yeah, so definitely, good stuff to have. Like an update's always awesome, especially for something that's been missing or apparently missing from Android for such a long time.
Yeah, it's clear they've been working on it for a while because obviously they left it into, what was it, Jelly Bean, and then swiftly got rid of it when they realised that the apps just weren't coded and stable enough to do it.
Yeah, and I think there's been a way to root and use Expose to kind of bring it out. Maybe not Lollipop, but I know it was there in KitKat.
Yeah, I mean, CM have been working on it for their permission system is probably a bit more in depth than the one that Google are planning to use.
Yeah, so I'm going on right through our show notes. I've got something in here called Google Now on Tap, which I'll admit I've been the best at religiously following the Google I/O coverage as I was hoping I'd be able to this week. But I did hear a lot about this Google Now on Tap, which apparently sounds like Google Now is getting really, really creepy, but really awesome at the same time. So Chuck, go ahead and kind of fill us in with just how much more Google Now is going to be invested with everything we do on our phones.
Yeah, so Google Now on Tap, I would say that is my second favorite feature that we heard about in Android M, with Doze, which we're going to talk about next year, being my favorite. So Google Now on Tap. What's Google Now on Tap? Well, Google Now is incredibly smart already. So you get tickets for an airline in your inbox, and all of a sudden Google Now knows you're going somewhere, can show you the weather a couple days before, shows you your flight information. Google Now is pretty scarily smart already. Well, Google Now on Tap is taking that to the next level. So Google Now is smart in the fact that it can gather information about you, as through your email and things like that. Well, Google Now on Tap is actually going to be contextually aware now. So some of the examples that they showed on stage was they were listening to Google Play Music, and I think they were listening to Skrillex, or however you pronounce his or her name. I don't actually know who they are. So they were listening to that particular artist, and they said, "Okay, Google, what is his real first name?" Now they said, "What is his real first name?" Google Now was contextually aware enough to know that you were listening to Skrillex, that particular artist, and insert that contextual information into the question to be able to answer your question of what is his first name, which is pretty scary and pretty awesome at the same time. Some other examples they showed there was, let's say, for example, your wife says, let's meet up for dinner at, Pizza Hut tonight, okay? Oh, yeah, and by the way, don't forget to pick up the dry cleaning. Well, you can long press on the home button, and it's going to bring up this contextual information. It's going to be smart enough to know that your wife said, let's go to dinner at Pizza Hut. It's going to bring up a little card about Pizza Hut with directions, the ability to call it, maybe some Yelp reviews, some information like that. And it's going to have known the fact that she said to pick up your dry cleaning, and it's going to go ahead and offer to automatically set the reminder in Google Now for you for on your way home to pick up the dry cleaning. So Google Now, which was already an awesome service, is going to basically, it has no competition as it is right now. I know Apple has Siri, but I've tried to use Siri, and Siri's pretty stupid when it comes to a lot of things. It's okay, but it's never been as smart for me as Google Now has, and Google Now just got even more scarily smart. So it's going to actually know what you're doing on the phone at that time with contextual information and be able to offer you help with whatever you're actually doing on the phone. Awesome. I'm totally looking forward to it. Sadly, it's not in the Android M developer preview. They're actually not going to roll it out until Android M becomes official, which is incredibly cool. So you'll have a lot of contextual information. Of course, there'll be some privacy concerns, I'm sure, about the fact that now Google is going to have even more information about you than they already do. But my feeling is Google already owns all of my life anyway, so what's a little bit more? So kind of to go a little bit geeky here for a little bit, they were actually talking about how this works in the back end and how they were talking about their deep neural networks and how they have this multi-level understanding and machine learning to actually be able to do this, as well as what powers like Google Photos and to be able to pick out faces and shapes and stuff and kind of group those together. And if you didn't see the demo on it or them talking about it on stage, it's not super techy, so most people are going to understand it, but you're just going to kind of look at it and go, wow, that's amazing. So I'm saying it here right now, Skynet will begin at Google. I am confident of it.
Yeah, I was looking through here on Android Police's website, and it looks like another kind of demonstration of Google Now on tap was this guy, if you get like an email on an inbox or Gmail, whatever the application is, the message just says, hey, like, we're going to go check out the movie Tomorrowland tonight. The trailer looks awesome, and then Google Now would then pop up a card for Tomorrowland right there just because it sees it in the body of the message, and then you can play the trailer in YouTube or check out the page in IMDb. And I just think that this kind of new direction for Google Now, not really a new direction, but the next step for it, is a really smart idea on Google's part, because Google Now has always been a really incredibly useful tool, even since it was first launched with Jelly Bean. But it's always been that thing where you'd have to navigate to it. So you'd have to either swipe to the leftmost home screen if you're using the Google Now launcher, or swipe up from the bottom of your screen if you have a phone with on-screen navigational buttons. So it's always been easy to get to, but it hasn't ever really been in existence throughout the whole phone as a general whole. So with Google Now on tap, it's really impressive because you can get Google Now can now really invade your phone through your text messages, through your emails, through whatever audio you're currently listening to. And it is creepy to talk about it, like it is basically Skynet from what we saw at I.O., but it's actually really damn impressive, and I know this is probably going to freak a lot of people out, especially with the whole NSA thing and the whole security thing. That's still a pretty big deal online for a lot of people. But personally, I don't care. Google already has all the information on me they're ever going to get. If they have it already, I'm just glad they're using it for some awesome new technology like this. So I'm completely on board for it. So, Fred or Greg, what are your thoughts on Google's creepy, scary, new, awesome Google Now update?
Well, I think they've got most of the information already. Those of us that live in the Google universe, if you're communicating by Gmail, if you're talking in Hangouts, and a host of other Google products that we've all been using for 5 to 10 years at this point, they've got all the data. Whether anybody's actually reading it or whether it's just being scanned by their artificial intelligence tools, I tend to be more inclined to think that it's just being subjected to their AI analysis and scanning, but they've got the data already, and as was said when Google Plus came out, they're taking data that you've already put on their servers in a variety of ways and giving you different ways to access it and present it and share it, and now they're applying their intelligence tools to stuff that we've pretty much signed over to them already, and it's really super impressive. And I took a quick look today at the new Photos app, which is really cool. it's doing stuff which I've read about, I've seen about previously, being able to identify photos. So, for example, in my Google Photos, it identified a category called concerts, and it did a pretty good job of identifying both photos of me playing the guitar live and some concerts that I took pictures of professional, more professional people than me, which was kind of cool to see me in there. But it was also cool that it recognized this is a concert, which means that it understood the concept of a stage with people standing on it playing music and so on. There was some misses also. I did a search for guitars, and it came up with pictures of me playing the guitar. It came up with photos of guitars, and then it came up with something that was a picture of a grid from an air filter that kind of looked like it might have been the neck and fingerboard of a guitar. And but the interesting thing about deep neural networks is that they get smarter over time, which is really cool. So I'll be interested to see how this thing keeps evolving.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the collections. Mine actually, of course, the first one that popped up there was a beer collection, which had all the pictures taken of all the different beers that I drink. I kind of taste for different ones, so I don't like the common ones. But I tell you what, it was all there, and it did not have a single picture of the coffee that I've taken pictures of, which was in another collection. So that's pretty impressive.
That is crazy, but awesome. Yeah, but going on to some less creepy news, but still equally just as cool. Chuck, I think, mentioned it earlier here a couple minutes ago on the show, is something called Doze. So essentially what Doze is, it's basically kind of a sleep mode or a hibernate mode for your Android device. So if you haven't, from what I understood, Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you haven't been using your Android tablet or smartphone for a prolonged period of time, it'll kind of put itself in this kind of sleep or doze mode. And from what we saw at the conference, reportedly they put this on a Nexus 9 tablet, and comparing the Nexus 9 between an Android device that didn't have Doze and one that was on Android M with the new Doze feature, standby time doubled for the Nexus 9 with Android M on it with that new feature. So they didn't go into too much detail from what I was able to read online about the actual specifics of this feature, but idle time on Android devices has always been a real pain because I love the Android operating system, but the only reason I will never, or one of the only reasons I'll never buy an Android tablet is because the idle time is just virtually non-existent. You look at an Apple iPad or something, it can last, me anyways, for my personal use, it lasts me an easy week without having to charge it, simply because the idle time is that darn good. So if we get something similar to what we saw out of idle time on iPads for so long finally come to Android, I know for me that'd make a huge deal to me of phones and tablets alike, because even my phone, I leave it on for the alarm when I wake up, and the battery just depletes like none other when it sits overnight. So it's not a really fancy feature with lots of flashy lights or anything, but it's a really useful one. And that's kind of like a theme you see through all of Android M. Like, there's no giant, beautiful, like, revolution to Android. It's just improvements in functionality, which is honestly the best way Google could have gone with the whole thing this year.
Yeah, so the way they described, basically, you've always known that a single wake-up timer on Android decreases your overall battery time by 2 minutes, I think that they had said. So, imagine having, 100 wake-ups within a span of 5 minutes. Well, there's a decrease in your battery time pretty drastically. So the way that they're doing Doze here is they basically use the sensors to determine if your tablet's idle. And the longer it's idle, they kind of do an exponential curve on killing timers. So what ends up happening is the longer you're idle, the more it waits before it does any kind of wake locks or wake ups. It basically prevents the system from doing it. So my understanding, and Greg and I were talking before the show, is apparently it's kind of similar to what presumably iOS does, which is if it's been idle there, as soon as you pick it up, all of a sudden, boom, there all your notifications are coming in, as you finally, pick the thing up. So I think the Doze is kind of similar to that system in the fact that if your tablet's there, it doesn't need to wake up. You don't need the notification because you're not using it. Whereas as soon as you start to use it, then you're going to start getting all your notifications and wake lock. So, doubling idle time on a Nexus 9 is not hard to do. But I'll be curious to see, Nexus 6, and once they really kind of get things working there. I'm definitely looking forward to it because I'm really, really hoping it does help increase idle life a lot more.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out too that I don't think I mentioned when I was initially talking about it. When it is in doze mode, you'll still be able to get high-level priority notifications. So if you have like starred contacts as priority contacts for alarms too, those will still come through. You just won't be getting updates from like Twitter, every email, every Facebook notification, every Instagram notification. Just the ones that like are really important to you that you place a high priority on. So you'll still get notifications, just won't be blasted with every single Hangouts message. Like my phone goes off like every second since I'm in like 5 tech chats that are talking 24/7. So you still got that with it there too. So another thing that will actually not take too long to talk about real quick for Android M, they've talked about for the developer preview that's out right now. Basically, this developer preview will get monthly updates until the final official launch of Android M, which we're looking at. Did Google say like an official like time frame for when this is expected to go live for everybody?
No, they didn't. Yeah,
Just
you can.
third quarter, I think.
Yeah.
You can expect it with the new Nexus phone, can't you?
Yeah, so like we'll probably see Android M officially launch whenever the next Nexus product or products come out. So probably sometime early fall, late summer. But until that time, though, every month that goes by, there will be a major update, or at least a software update to the developer preview for Android M. So bug fixes, new features, all that jazz, which is something we haven't seen in past developer previews for Android before. So if you like Flash and running like the latest build of Android before it's officially out there for everybody, you will be able to get new monthly updates to that as time goes on, which is a pretty awesome deal too. Because like I don't Flash, or I don't have any devices I can really Flash Android M on for the time being. But I know Tony and Chuck both have Android M on their devices right now, so I know you guys are probably more stoked for that than I am right now.
Definitely.
But going on right through, it looks like Chuck, you're up next because I don't have Android M, so I don't know any of this stuff. But it looks like throughout the settings of Android M, we've got some new additions, such as being able to change the theme of your settings, System UI Tuner, where you can change quick tiles for your quick settings. So go and talk in more detail about this, but it kind of looks like Android is taking more of like a CyanogenMod mod or kind of a custom ROM approach with giving you just like really further customization through like the general OS of the phone.
Yep. So you probably can't see it, unfortunately, because it's kind of small and on the phone. But you will actually see that there is a top-level Google setting now in Settings itself, which actually previously was the little setting window you would click on the app drawer. So there's that. There's also this little nice feature, which if you notice, I now have a dark themed settings. So there is now under developer settings the ability to select the theme. Right now there's only light or dark or automatic. I don't know if automatic maybe sets it to dark when it's nighttime or when it detects a certain level of ambience around. I'm not really sure how that works. But so it looks like Google is investigating at least some form of theming. I don't know how extensive it will be, but we do know that a lot of people flash custom ROMs for a number of reasons. One, permissions, which we talked about before in App Ops. Well, Google's rolling that out with Android M. A lot of people do it because they want to be able to theme things. Well, there's presumably a little bit of theming going on in here. Who knows how extensive they'll make that, but if they do make it into an extensive theming system, they eliminate another reason that people would flash custom ROMs. And finally, a popular reason people flash custom ROMs is the ability to change quick toggles, to add them around and move them around. There is actually a setting in the developer settings that you can toggle something called System UI Tuner. Now, the only thing in that menu right now is the ability to modify the quick toggles. You can remove whichever ones you don't want. You can move them around. You can add some more of them. So you are actually getting quite a bit more customization level here with Android M. Really letting you kind of change things, which is a lot of what people who flash custom ROMs want to do. They want to tweak things. They want to change things around. So it looks like Google is kind of starting to embrace that a little bit here with Android M and possibly opening it up a little bit more to more customization. Kind of goes along with the whole saying of Android, be different, not the same, or whatever their slogan is that they have there. So maybe they're taking that to a new level. There is a ton of new settings in developer options. I won't go through all of them, but there is one interesting one that I noticed in there. And it's related to aggressive handoff from Wi-Fi to cell. There's a toggle that you can actually set so that the Android M will be more aggressive about killing Wi-Fi and switching over to cellular data when your Wi-Fi connection is weak or non-existent. I haven't toggled it on to take a look at it yet, but it seems kind of cool. If, for those of you guys who might have had permissions with it hanging onto Wi-Fi a little bit too long, you can kind of have it kick that off a little bit longer. And there was one other toggle in there to always keep cell data on even when Wi-Fi is connected. So I don't really know where they're going with that, but it's kind of some cool kind of settings to just see in there. And then kind of the last thing not related to settings specifically was one of the big announcements was Chrome tabs in the app. Not a whole lot to talk about here, but basically what this is right now in an app, if a user wants to embed a URL, they've got a couple choices. They can launch Chrome externally or launch some web browser externally, be it Chrome or Firefox or LinkBubble or whatever it is that you use, fire it externally. But the problem is with the exception of possibly LinkBubble, it's disruptive to your flow. All of a sudden you're taken out of the app and you're into another app. Or they could try and build their own web browser within the app itself, which is what a lot of things do. Twitter does it. There's a few other ones that have built-in web browsers. Well, they're not really great experiences either because it takes a lot to build your own web browser. So what Google's actually allowing them to do now is basically embed Chrome tabs in your app. So you'll have the full power of Chrome inside of your app to be able to view web pages. You'll get tabbing ability, you'll get the overflow menu, you'll have a back button, you'll have everything that you would normally have in Chrome inside of your app. So finally you can have a full-fledged browser experience inside of your app leveraging Chrome, which is already there on the Android device itself. So pretty cool. Definitely a nice way of not disrupting your current app flow when you need to go when they want to show something on the web. Kind of looking forward to seeing that. That will be something that developers will have to actually implement in their apps, so it's not something you just immediately get. But I assume a lot of people will start migrating over to that once Android M is actually released.
Yeah, I was actually reading up on that because I saw that mentioned at the conference, but I wasn't really certain what it was all about. So I was reading through it, and one thing that I forgot what website I was reading the article on, but they mentioned too that since it is Chrome, if you use Chrome on your phone or your computer, if you go to fill in your information for if you're purchasing something on Amazon, it's got the autofill suggestions right there. So if you filled in your address, your name, your email, or something like that before, you can go ahead and hit the autofill button. All your information is placed right there. And features like that will also be in this Chrome tabs and apps too, since it is technically Google Chrome. If you have to fill out information for your address, if you're signing up for something that the application redirected you to, you can autofill your information right there since it is Google Chrome. So I just thought that was a pretty nifty feature that you're getting all the features and extensions and tools of Chrome right within an application like that. So it's actually a pretty neat feature. It doesn't sound super exciting to talk about at first, but it actually could prove to be a really, really useful tool for a lot of apps out there.
Yeah, definitely could.
Yeah, let's not forget the amount of times that an app chucks you into Chrome and then you want to go back, but it goes back in Chrome instead of going back to the app.
Exactly.
Yes. The ever persistent problem of what does the Android back button actually do?
What does the back button do?
Because it's never consistent. Well, it has gotten a lot more consistent, but it's still not completely consistent.
Make a whole show out of that. What's the real purpose of the Android back button? Have an hour discussion about that one topic. Alright, so going through our show notes, I've been hearing a lot about Android Brillo or just Google Brillo, whatever it's called. We talked about this a bit on our last week's show with Kevin the Tech Ninja Nether. From what I've seen so far, again, shame on me for not reading up on all my Google I/O Android M topics. But from what I've seen so far, this is Google's new operating system for their Internet of Things devices. So that sounds like a lot of fancy, futuristic stuff. So Chuck, go ahead and let me know what Google Brillo is, because it sounds cool, but I'm still not 100% sure what it actually is doing.
So what is Brillo? Brillo is Google's operating system for the Internet of Things. And you hear a lot these days about the Internet of Things. Well, what the heck does that actually mean? What it basically boils down to is smart devices in your house. It's the way to take an everyday device and quote-unquote make it smart by hooking it up to the Internet and allowing you to do things with it, either remotely or from some kind of control system. So, Google has now announced this new ecosystem, this new operating system called Brillo. Brillo is actually a kind of a stripped-down version of Android that has real bare minimum system requirements. The example they gave is something like a light switch or a light bulb. You don't need a Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 processor in your light bulb. You got something bare minimum specs in there. So Brillo is basically a completely stripped down version of Android, but it still has a lot of the same frameworks that Android has. So when you're developing things for the Brillo platform, you're developing on a familiar SDK as if you were developing for the Android phone itself. So it's really kind of nice in the fact that they're working on this SDK that if you're familiar with already developing Android, you can develop these Internet of Things. So they're hoping to kind of get this on devices upcoming. They're working with people like Qualcomm and others who make these kind of low processors, presumably TI, real small things that are going to be in light bulbs and toasters and all this other stuff, so that Google really can start Skynet. But Brillo is kind of a standard. They're trying to kind of make a standard around it. Unlike the Apple approach, which Apple has also tried to make a standard, but their standard really was just for the communication protocol between them. Whereas Apple not only is working on the communication protocol, which is what they're calling Weave, but they're also working on the operating system itself, which is Brillo. So kind of cool. They didn't release a ton of information at the actual I/O keynote itself, other than say we have Brillo, we have the operating system, and we have Weave, which is the actual communication protocol that's going to happen, that's going to be the mechanism by which all these things are going to communicate with each other. They gave an example of your phone coming close to another phone and knowing it's close to that phone to be able to do stuff with it. That's kind of all what the Weave protocol actually does, which is kind of the communication channel. So definitely interested to see more about that and kind of how that's going to work. The Brillo developer preview is going to be available in Q3, and the Weave communication API is actually going to be accessible later in Q4. So we're really probably a good year out before we actually see anything on this. Assuming Google can actually make headway in this. Now the problem that Google is going to have is the problem anyone has had, and even Apple has had, in that standardizing this market has proven to be difficult. So Google has a little bit of an advantage in the fact that they've bought Nest. They've bought some of these home automation, these larger known home automation companies already, so they can kind of, for lack of a better term, actually force Brillo on them. And perhaps let the market shake it out that way. Be interesting to see what happens. It definitely would be kind of cool if we can get at least some kind of standard going on, among all these communication channels.
Yeah, you touched on it perfectly there. If anybody's going to get sort of at least a semi-universal ecosystem going, it's Google. I mean, they've already got their Works with Nest platform and everything like that, which ties in perfectly with things like Smart Things, even with HomeKit, and all sorts of different brands of things. So if Google can get behind it, I think it's finally we're going to get to the stage where my phone knows I'm going to get up in the morning and check my emails, then my coffee machine starts making my coffee.
Yeah, so exactly. So going through here through our Q&A before we go through the rest of our topics for the night. Brandon Gissel, or guys, I gotta learn how to pronounce your name because you're rocking the Q&A right now. He's actually got quite a few good questions in here. One of them, he said, did you guys see the new multi-window feature in Android M? So I don't have the developer preview. All right, so yeah, so for those of you that don't know, there's been a lot of if you've been on Google Plus at all, like for the past couple of days, it's been nothing but screenshots of people being able to use kind of a similar feature to Samsung's multi-window, being able to run two applications at once on the screen at the same time. So, have you toyed around with that at all yet, Chuck?
I haven't. Unfortunately, it's not easy to activate yet. You have to. You might even have to be rooted because you have to go in and change your build prop and change a few things. There's some flashables that you can actually do it for you. So no, I haven't. Mostly because I'm not that interested in playing with it myself. I can pretty get a good feel for it just seeing other people's things. But I'm kind of hoping we're going to see it in Android M, but I don't know. It still seems a little bit finicky now to be a finished product by the time M rolls out.
Yeah, so another question we have here from Brandon is, what Nexus devices do you guys think will receive an Android M update since only last year's I/O devices have Android M developer preview system images? And he's wondering about if the Nexus 10 or the 2013 Nexus 7, I'm guessing, will get this Android M update.
Yeah, I think you're a bit outside of the 18 months. Everything that's got the preview, I think, will get M. I wouldn't anything else.
Yeah. So so like the only devices I have right now are like the Nexus 9, the 6, and the 5, or are those the only ones that have the preview so far?
The only other one I might see getting it is maybe the Nexus 7 2013. Maybe. I don't think the Nexus 4 is going to get it. I don't think the Nexus 7 2012 or whatever is going to get it. I think the newest Nexus 7 might. And I only say that because they basically said that there's the rumor is there's no Nexus tablets this year. So that's the only reason I think that we might see that one get it. It's just if we don't see a tablet this year. But Nexus 5 and 6, I don't think we'll see it on the Nexus 4.
No.
Well, no new Nexus tablets. That's probably good news for Chuck since he loves the Nexus 9 so much. He gets to keep that for an extra year.
My Nexus 9 is gone. I have my Remix, the only thing I need now.
And we'll go ahead and we're going to go ahead and hop into our Android Pay conversation a little bit earlier than what we had in the Google Doc for tonight's show. But Brandon asked once again, you were really all over the questions tonight. He said, what do you guys think of Android Pay hands-free? So before Fred goes into like the whole rundown of what Android Pay is, Android Pay hands-free, from what I've been able to see so far, will only be available as a beta in the San Francisco Bay Area with Papa John's Pizza and McDonald's. But essentially, you'll walk into the stores that accept Android Pay, and you'll just tell the cashier, whoever you're checking out with, that you'd like to pay with Google, and then that'll sync with your phone, and it'll get your card information. You can basically pay for whatever you're getting at the store without having to take your phone out whatsoever. So I am really stoked for this. I know I'm probably never going to get this feature in the boondocks of Lawrence, Michigan, but it's something to look forward to. And it definitely sounds awesome, so I know I'd be excited for something like that. But Fred, I'll let you go ahead and fill us in. Just really what Android Pay is and just how it kind of like ties in with Google Wallet and just really what it's all about.
Okay, well, Android Pay, as you said, if people have been paying attention, it first came up, it was first talked about back in February, and we knew something was brewing, as we say here, because Google acquired some of the intellectual property of another mobile payment company called ISIS, and that was the mobile pay company, not the terrorist group. Part of what came with that was an agreement which would make Wallet into a pre-installed app on AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon phones. So it's now official. It was announced at I/O, and it's officially going to be released with Android M, but it's also going to work on KitKat and anything more recent than KitKat. So what's new and exciting about this is that it's got not only has a tap to pay feature, but that is going to be a feature that developers will be able to build into apps. So if you're an app builder, if you're a developer building an app for whatever type of product you're selling, you'll only have to click the Buy with Android Pay and leave the rest to the system. Google is already partnering with American Express, Discover, MasterCard, and Visa. And I'm sorry, it's really those guys. It's the banks and the credit cards, not the merchants. And as far as what you were saying, Joe, not being in a major metro area, it may take a while to get things, but if it catches on, and not only the various funding sources are using it, but the companies that are making the point of sale systems are using it, it's very likely that you will actually see it. It may take a little longer than in, say, New York and San Francisco and Chicago, but I think that if it catches on, you're going to see this built into cash register systems and be as readily available as ATMs. As far as security, they're not actually, the Android Pay is not actually going to share any card information with vendors. It's going to generate a single-use number that won't last. It's not going to be persistent, so there's not going to be anything that, even if it fell into the wrong hands, could cause you any trouble. So it does look and smell a lot like Apple Pay. And I guess we can just say here, Google is firing back, and they've caught up, and they're in the game.
Yeah, and just looking through to the vendors and stuff Google has been able to get so far. I'll go ahead and screen share this just so if you're watching the video right now, you can see who I'm talking about. But just looking through this, it's actually pretty impressive. They've got companies like Best Buy, GameStop, Subway, Panera Bread, Toys R Us, Walgreens, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, which are a lot of companies before. Like if I went through Kalamazoo, which is a fairly large city, about 20 miles from here, I can pay at maybe one store throughout all of there. So seeing places like Best Buy, GameStop, Subway now have the ability to pay with that is really just impressive in itself. And then also, along with the stores, Android Pay will also be through applications. So if you go through like the Eat24 app, the Newegg app, Uber, Lyft, Chipotle, which you know my inner white girl will like seeing that there, Domino's, all that good stuff, you can also pay through those Android apps with Android Pay as well. So Google just kind of really needed something to resurrect Google Wallet, because as much as I love the feature, I've been using it more and more often for the past couple months. It's just kind of been in a stale state because there haven't been a whole lot of updates to it. Like it got a material design update, but there just hasn't been a whole lot of marketing towards it. So we just kind of needed a resurrection for the mobile payment service for mobile payments on Android. So I'm really excited to see Android Pay, even though I'm probably never in a million years going to get the hands-free option in Lawrence. It's still definitely cool to see Google kind of try to one-up Apple with their own mobile payment system with that. So, Greg, I know we skipped over you. We talked about Google Photos for a little bit there a few minutes ago, but it looks like you were able to test out the iOS version of the app. So what are your thoughts on what you've seen so far with Google Photos on your iPhone?
Yeah, I mean, I've only really been using it about a day or so. After spending hours of my life trying to index everything in Apple Photos app, Google just blows everything out of the water as they usually do. I mean, Fred and Chuck touched on it a little while ago. It's a replacement to bring photos out of Google Plus, basically, because we all know Google Plus is dead. So they've just brought it into a standalone app, which, as an iOS user, is a lot easier and will probably make a lot more people use it. It shows all your normal camera roll, but also has started to bring in collections, which is, I don't know whether you'll be able to kind of see, is just like a search feature which puts things together in not just location, which is pretty easy, but it starts to group things together in rather creepy and accurate sort of things. I mean, I've got ones for like food, obviously, but also things like bowling, which is scarily sort of accurate, is just ones that sort of about 3 times I've ever been bowling over the last 6 years or whatever I've been using Google Photos. It's just gone, oh, that guy likes bowling. But it's just crazy. You can go in and literally just put like a search for water, and it'll bring up everything like beach photos, feeding the ducks, all sorts of random. It's just scarily accurate and like obviously the two guys said before, a little bit creepy, but this is firmly going alongside the camera app on iOS, because I don't really see the need to use anything else now. It's brilliant. It also gives you all the awesome features, and obviously a much easier way to put together stories, awesome sort of collages, videos, everything that you would ever need to, really. And one of the biggest things is obviously unlimited photo backup at full resolution, providing you're using anything less than 16 megapixels.
For free.
For free, yeah.
That's
Your move,
insane.
Apple.
Yeah, definitely. So, also, another thing that Google I/O that I know I personally was insanely excited for were the talks for Google Cardboard, which I know, Fred, I know you've got a Google Cardboard yourself, and it's just an insanely fun little thing to have. I mean, it's like, you can get, like, I was actually checking out the Google Cardboard site, which I haven't checked out forever. I found out the first time recently. And Google, it really has a lot of information on there regarding, kits you can buy, apps that are available for it. And one thing we did see at Google I/O is that they made available a 6-inch variant of Google Cardboard for the Nexus 6 now, so you can get an official Google Cardboard for the Nexus 6 with that. And then also, Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if this is something that's been around for a while or if this is something that was at Google I/O, but I was looking on the Cardboard website, and then I saw this jump thing here. Is that a Google I/O related subject, or has that been around for a while?
It is. So one of the big announcements related to Google Cardboard was this thing called Expeditions and kind of their new VR system. So what Google is actually doing is they have a system now to help you create VR for Google Cardboard. Basically, they have a camera array that you can set up to take photos or video that they then have software that can stitch together and actually make the VR worlds for the Google Cardboard. Now, they've worked with GoPro to basically make one, and that's what you're actually seeing there on the screen. I believe that's 16 GoPro cameras, which are all synchronized to synchronized frame rates and start-stop shutters, so that they are all completely synchronized with a 360-degree. And they have specialized software that will actually take the video from that and stitch it together and make it a full 3D VR for the Google Cardboard. The reason they're doing this is for something they're launching called Expeditions. Expeditions is basically a way of sending a bunch of Google Cardboards and a tablet to a classroom and allowing the students there to use the Google Cardboard to explore, say, like the Eiffel Tower, for example, where they can go and actually visit it through the VR, because the likelihood of you going on a field trip to the Eiffel Tower is probably pretty slim. So they're really trying to get content makers to really get this rich content out there in this 3D virtual reality world to really push Cardboard. And Expeditions is their launching platform for getting that into the schools and classrooms.
Yeah,
Which
so
normally I'm against technology in the classroom, but this is one example where I think it's actually pretty freaking cool. So,
well, yeah, especially if you're looking at like smaller schools, like where I go to, like Lawrence, like there's no way we could afford like trips overseas to places like that. But I mean, pretty much everyone has a smartphone. If they could just supply, for a few bucks to get a few, cardboards in there. I mean, pretty much every kid has access to a smartphone. Just pop it in the cardboard and go get transported. To like the Eiffel Tower, like wherever you want to go. And it's actually just really impressive. Like Google Cardboard was just announced as like, we thought just kind of like a little off the side thing at I/O last year. But if you go to their website, actually they've really done a lot of really pushing this as a legitimate product for Google. I mean, they've got a whole thing on there with their partners for Cardboard, so like all the different sites that are working with Google Cardboard software. It's like the Dodo case, the unofficial Cardboard, some of the original ones, and they've got the new ViewMaster. And then they've got a whole section, for applications developers. Now, this isn't necessarily Google I/O stuff. This is just how Cardboard has progressed since I/O of 2014. But it really makes me excited to see where the software is going to go, because I've been using my Cardboard, since I got it last year, and it's just really impressive to see how far just a little, such little amount of materials has come just utilizing the power of your smartphone. Granted, you can get more immersive or more realistic experiences from things like the HTC whatever head-mounted display they worked with Valve on. But to utilize technology like pretty much everybody has with just a piece of cardboard and a magnet, it's just really impressive to see how far Google has carried this thing since last year and just how much progress the product has made.
Well, two cool things. One is that YouTube actually is going to support all of this new VR stuff they're doing with that camera setup. So YouTube is going to be the platform where you're actually going to be able to share all these VR, virtual reality, actual movies, which is kind of cool. So they've already got a platform for it. And a quick note on expeditions they were talking about. Google actually sends you, I think that they said 25 Nexus 6s, the 25 cardboards, and the tablet for the teacher to use for this expedition stuff. So they actually send you everything that you need to use it. You don't have to have anything.
Oh, wow. That's really impressive, actually.
Yeah.
It looks like we do have another question in the Q&A from Brandon once again, so round of applause for you for keeping the show going with all your questions right now. He said regarding Android Pay once again, do you guys think that the security enhancements in Android Pay over using a credit card will help to drive wider adoption if Google markets this properly?
No.
Simple answer right there.
I just think for us, yeah, definitely. But I just think normal people are so scared of using their phone to pay for something. I don't know. I mean, Apple Pay's really struggling, so it's really difficult to say. I don't think the security or anything, the concerns will be top of the agenda. I just think it's ease of use.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying that, actually, I think America, you're still stuck on like signatures and stuff, aren't you?
Less than before. New credit cards are chip enabled and don't always require a signature at point of sale. But I think it's gonna catch on. There was a period of time in the late '90s when people weren't ready to buy online with a credit card, and I was even kind of a holdout based on what I knew about web technology. But it just seemed like relatively overnight, in the course of about a year or two, everybody started buying online with credit cards and bank cards. So I think when it catches on, it'll catch on, and it does indeed depend on how well they market it and who they market it to and who picks it up and runs with it.
So after we pretty much got through everything that was at I/O, which I'm pretty proud we got through that in just about an hour or so, we got through all of Google I/O and all of Android M, so now we'll go ahead and go from left to right from the Brew crew that decided to join me tonight, and we'll just have to keep it with this crew right here, Alvie, Tony. We're just not going to talk about them for a while now because they had other things to do, so they are dead to us right now. But no, going through all of our stuff from Google I/O, left to right, ones and zeros, Chuck. What is your favorite thing from Google I/O or Android M? Just something that was announced. What really stuck out to you the most, and what's got you the most excited?
What has me the most excited? I think Google Now on tap is definitely, I think, the most exciting thing for me. Google Now has always been awesome, but it's kind of gotten a little bit. You have to scroll to actually find the information you're looking for, whereas Google Now on tap is contextual and it's right there immediately. So I think Google Now on tap is definitely for me.
What about you, Back? Back from the
Yeah,
dead, Fred. What do you think?
I'm inclined to agree, and the fact that I have Android M running and can't see it yet has got me that much more excited and anticipating it. That I can't see on Google Now on tap. That is. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
All right, 2 a.m. Greg, are you gonna make something original? Or are you gonna be a follower and say Google Now on tap as well?
No, that is a great feature. The best thing for me to see from Google was that they're not just saying, right, this is this feature coming to Android, and then we don't see it for 2 months. They really focused on bringing features to the web and bringing features to iOS as well. Really, literally within a few minutes of the inbox announcement, I'd had the update and I'd had the Photos app ready to download in a few hours, which is completely different and really great to see from Google, really.
Yes, for me personally, I'm gonna have to go with Google Cardboard just because I'm such a geek about VR and any updates to it, like we saw Google I/O, especially with Expeditions and the jump camera feature. Maybe one day we'll have 360 degrees of a What's Brewing podcast. We can look around everybody when we all get our 16 GoPro virtual reality cameras. You can see the whole scene for all of us. So no, I'm really excited though to see where that goes and just how much it's grown and just kind of see how it progresses throughout the rest of 2015. But that about wraps it up here for tonight's show. Before we do close it out though, I do have to give another shout out to the awesome folks over at Audible if I can figure out how to get my screen share to work, because apparently I still can't do that after how long we've been doing this podcast. But definitely thank you to Audible again for sponsoring this podcast, because tonight's podcast, since it's like 10:13 p.m. and probably 3 o'clock for Greg, is brought to you by Audible.com, where you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial for the service at our custom URL Audible has given us at www.audibletrial.com/mobilecupofjoe, where you have a selection of over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And if you are watching or listening to the show tonight of tonight's episode of What's Brewing, Audible is offering you guys a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Again, I have been listening to Ready Player One, fantastic story by, oh god, I should know the name. Calvin Klein? Not Calvin Klein, why the hell did I say that? Ernest Klein. There we go. I'm tired, I need some more caffeine. Oh no, they got a great selection though between sci-fi, like nerdy stories like this. Really awesome stuff, tells you the length of it, who the author is, who it's narrated by. Really great selection. Then if you're interested in this, different things that other listeners or other users of the service have checked out as well. Fantastic story here. Definitely recommend it if you do enjoy 80s pop culture and sci-fi movies, arcade games, Pac-Man, whatever it may be. A really fun read right there with a pretty surprising amount of heart to it as well. So to download your free audiobook today, head on over to www.audibletrial.com/mobilecupofjoe to get your free audiobook download. Again, that's www.audibletrial.com/mobilecupofjoe. So before oh god, we've got Inception going on right here with the screen share. We're going left to right. 1-0 Chuck, what's going on for you this next week, my man?
Not a whole lot. Hoping the sun might finally shine here in Kansas, since I don't think we've seen it for going on over 3 weeks now. We're over, I think, over 13 inches of rain for the month of May now. So, yeah, just a little bit of rain here.
Nice. Sounds like a joyful time there with no sunshine. What about you, back from the dead Fred? What's going on for you this week here coming up?
Well, we had so much I/O stuff to talk about that I did not get to mention that thanks to T-Mobile and Google and whoever else was involved in the process, perfecting, and they did just about perfect Wi-Fi calling for the Nexus 6. I was now able to pick up a Nexus 6 and my really too long of Windows Phone experiment and get back into running Android on my daily driver.
Nice.
I had really only been planning on this lasting about 30 days when when I made that move back last fall. So I'm very happy to be back in the Android universe, and on the other hand, I'm very happy to have Android M up and running on my older device on the Nexus 5. And another piece of news, in addition to some other accomplishments we mentioned here at Mobile Cup of Joe, I was accepted and got a press pass to CE Week in New York City, which was a nice acknowledgement for me and for the site as being press-worthy, and that is going to be a super show. It's still about a month away, but we'll have lots to talk about when that gets closer. And I'm starting to see lists of the exhibitors there, and there's apparently a record number of new products that are going to be unveiled at CE Week, which is the big computer electronics show in New York City.
Very, very cool.
Consumer electronics.
And going on to 3 a.m., Greg, right now. Hopefully we can convert you from the iPhone at some point, so I'll be rocking Androids one day. But what is going on with you and your inferior smartphone of choice?
Hey, I've got a Nexus 6. Yeah, we're currently moving offices at work, as you can see by the plasters all over my fingers. So that's been a fun day of moving desks and computers and God knows what. So hopefully we'll get all that sorted next week. There's Google Atmosphere on Tuesday, which is an online work-focused sort of keynote, which I'm looking forward to, which should be pretty good. And then back on here to get some more abuse on Saturday morning.
Nice. And definitely, if you guys haven't got the chance yet, head on over to the Mobile Cup of Joe website, because Greg did a fantastic piece on there with a new series he's got going on, hopefully for the next few weeks now, called Health and Technology. This time it's about Google, and he actually got the idea from our Q&A podcaster we did a couple weeks ago or last week. Really fantastic article all about just what Google has done for well-being and just health around the world. Really fantastic stuff in there. A lot of information I had no idea about, and really great stuff. Really original piece. So if you have the time to check it out, definitely do that. A round of applause for Greg for a really, really fantastic article there on the site. And also, if you haven't noticed, if you do need an easy way to watch our show live or an easy way to recommend the show, at 9 o'clock p.m. on Fridays, we'll have a little banner at the top of the page where you can go ahead and click that, and it will redirect you to the What's Brewing page where you can just stream the show instantly live from the website. So it's very easy now to catch What's Brewing when we do go live. But that's about all of the plugs and all the sponsors and all of the details and all the news I got to get out for tonight. As for me personally this coming week will be my final week of school, so once I get that out of the way, so Friday being my last day, which is a half day, so just like exams all week, and that's going to be about it. A lot of time for Mobile Cup of Joe content on the channel and the website. And again, we will have more details coming up regarding our 4,000 subscriber giveaway. We got a few cool things. Alvie, I know he has some stuff lined up, and I've got a few things as well. So hopefully within the next week or two, we will have more details about that and all the socials. So on Google+, Twitter, Facebook, just follow us on Mobile Cup of Joe for all the details regarding that and everything else here with the channel, the website, the show, all that and more. So if you guys have any more questions that we didn't get to tonight, go ahead and use the hashtag MCOJBrew. Those answered on next week's show. But for me, Chuck, Fred, Greg, and the other people who should not be named who dished us tonight, thank you so much for joining us on tonight's episode of What's Brewing. Have a fantastic night, and we'll see you guys again next Friday at hopefully 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time and not 9:12 Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night, guys. Bye.